after graduation, wherever the job takes me, I'm pretty open geographically, so
Very good.
wherever.
You ever have Fat Jack's Pizza down in Lima?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, awesome.
I'm Brittany Wensinger. I'm from Stowe, Ohio. I'm an undergrad as well in business and marketing education, and as of right now, I'm very unsure of what I plan on doing after college. But I graduate in August, so I have a little bit extra time.
I got nothing on Stowe, sorry.
It's Northeast Ohio.
Yeah, it's past Cleveland, isn't it?
No, it's like in line with Akron and Cleveland.
Okay.
It's about halfway between the two. It's right next to Kent State. If that
Okay.
helps.
Yeah.
I'm Sarah, Master's in Business and Marketing Education, and this is first semester for me.
Okay, well, welcome.
And Sarah, where's your hometown?
From Saudi Arabia.
Well, nothing on that either. I like your oil.
I'm Jamie Thomas. I'm from North Baltimore. I'm working on my master's in business ed, and I work at BGSU, and I can retire in about 4 years, so I'm looking at maybe doing some sort of teaching.
Okay, very good. Great new high school they got down there, high school, middle school. Have you guys been in that facility? You ought to take your class there sometime.
Yeah.
It's a very nice facility.
I'm Steve Brown, from Sylvania, and before you say it, Jeff was principal with my older daughter.
Okay, I was going to ask you, Jeff Kurtz.
And getting my master's in business education with a tech endorsement as well. Currently doing my student teaching for Lori Dwyer.
Okay, very good.
So we passed in the hall a few times.
Excellent. Did I have this frazzled look on my face?
Absolutely.
Looking like a Mad Hatter running around?
Pretty much.
Okay, very good.
Especially during the professional development day.
Yeah, that was... I didn't get to see any sessions except the data session. I'm a 10 on data, let me tell you. Yeah, that was... felt bad about that. Anyway, Ron Motter, the superintendent. This is my 9th year here at Penna Career Center. My 5th year as the superintendent. I was 4 years as the assistant. Prior to coming to Penna, I was at Northwood Local Schools for, I'll do the math on this, 7 and 5 is 12 and 2, 14 years. 7 years as their superintendent, 5 years as an elementary principal, and sandwiched in between those two experiences was 2 years as their high school principal. And prior to that, I was at Panera Schools in Putnam County. 6 years as a teacher and a coach, 3 years as their middle school principal. And prior to that, I started my teaching career back in 1980. And who was born in anybody alive in 1980 in this room? A few of us? Okay. All right, yeah. I started teaching in Cincinnati at Anderson High School, part of the Forest Hills school system in south east Cincinnati, a suburb, and was a business teacher and a coach. That's why I asked about the shorthand, because I did the business ed without shorthand, not the business ed with, because I thought, man, it's like learning a foreign language, so I stayed away from that. So anyway, I'll have Cindy and Deb introduce themselves, and then we'll talk a little bit more about Penna. So, Debbie?
I'm Debbie Morris. I've been at Penna for about 5 years, in charge of the ABLE program, which is Adult Basic Literacy Education. I came from Owens prior to that with their ABLE program and the Northwest ABLE Resource Center, which is the center that oversees the programs for professional development.
Well, I'm Cindy Covington, and I started my career long ago. I don't give dates anymore, but I was in the Maumee school system for quite a while, first grade on up. Really enjoyed it. Then I had my children, and I came back, and I've been with Penna, I can hardly believe it, 20 years. But when I came back, I started part-time, and I was actually in Debbie's program. She wasn't here then, but I was teaching GED classes and went on to do some grant programs, and then this opened up, and I've been doing this, I think it's about 7 years, in financial aid and student services for Penta Adult Ed. So, yeah. Ron,
All right.
I'm going to give it right back to you.
And I'm a 1980 BG graduate, so big fan of the Falcons. We try to do our best to employ Falcon alumni, and we take a lot of Falcon student teachers. So you're at a great school. It's great, great programs they have there. Penna Career Center opened in September of 1965. We are the oldest multi-county joint vocational school district in the state of Ohio. Next year we'll be celebrating our 50th anniversary. There was one career center that opened, Lake County Career Center opened, I think just a few days before we did, but they were a single county. They only served districts within the county, Lake County over by Cleveland area. But we were the very first one. Legislation was passed so that Penna could specifically open, and we're very proud of the fact that we're the oldest multi-county career center in the state. We're also the newest multi-county career center in the state. This facility, we broke ground in October of 2005, moved in August of 2008, so this is our 6th year in this facility. And most people don't know that Owens Community College was actually born out of Penna County Joint Vocational School District. Owens opened at the same time Penna did, and the leaders that ran Penna also ran Owens, but at that time it was called Penna County Technical College, and the very first superintendent of Penna became the very first president of Owens or Penna Technical College at that time. Bill Ramsey, who was superintendent at Rossford, became the president of Owens, and then he left there after a few years, and then Dr. Jacob C., who was superintendent at Penna after Bill Ramsey, became the president of Penna Technical College, and then eventually was there when they transformed into Owens Community College. So 50 years is a long time. We're in the planning stages right now to plan a lot of special events for next year, and a big culminating activity in the fall of 2015. I think it's September the 13th, which that's the closest Sunday we could get to September 7th, which would be actually our 50th birthday. And we're planning a large community event and hopeful to get a lot of political figures from Columbus to come up. When Penna was dedicated in the spring of 1966, basically after completing the first year of operation, Governor Rhodes was here because he was the key individual, along with Burl Shoemaker and the Chancellor of the Board of Regents. Burl Shoemaker was with the Department of Ed and headed up Career Tech Education at that time. And but Burl Shoemaker and Jim Rhodes really made it happen for facilities like this, but back in the day not like this, but for multi-county joint vocational school districts to be created. And the thing that's unique about what we do, Kaleida couldn't afford to have all these programs we've got. Stowe couldn't afford to have all of these. New Bremen, Lima, New Bremen there, Lima there, could not afford to offer the whole breadth of all these programs. So that's why you have Apollo that is serving Lima. City does offer some of these, but I think kids can probably go to Apollo. It's why at Kaleida, your kids probably can go to Apollo or Vantage. To choose from, or other schools in Putnam County go to Millstream Career Center. The thing that's unique about us compared to like Millstream, we're a joint vocational school district, so we have the authority to levy taxes. And our voters support us with a 1 mil continuing permanent improvement levy that pays for this facility. This was a $90 million project, 522,000 square feet. To give you some comparison, Lake's new high school that they built after the tornado took their high school down, that was 160,000 square feet, I think. North Baltimore, your new facility is 100,000 and change, I think, isn't it? Something like that. So to give you a sense of size, this building is 2.5 times the size of a super Walmart, if that gives you any sense of just kind of the space. But anyway, with that ability to tax, 1 mil is paying for this, and then we have 2.3 mils that voters have passed over the years. The last operating levy that was passed by voters to support Penna, so the last time that we were on the ballot to get operating money was back in 1983. Excuse me, 81 was the last time we were on the ballot. And 2003 was when we were on the ballot for the 1 mil PI levy to pay for this facility. At a compact like Millstream, they don't have the ability to levy taxes. it's a direct bill school. So if all of you would be in, let's say, a med tech program, so there's 7 of you in the class, and let's say that class costs $70,000 to offer. So you do the math, 70,000 divided by 7 kids, and you're all from 7 different districts. Each superintendent would get a bill from Findlay City Schools for $10,000 for each of you to be in that class. So that's what makes us a lot different than what a compact would be. Plus, we generally have a lot more programs because we're serving a lot more students. This building has a capacity for, the architects say 2,000 students. I think a more realistic number is 1,800 students, and we currently have just under 1,500 students on this campus. We also have satellite programs in many of our member schools where we own the ag program at Anthony Wayne. We own the teaching professions program at Anthony Wayne. We own the family consumer science program at Anthony Wayne. We own the marketing program at Anthony Wayne. Meaning we pay for the teacher, we pay to run the program, they provide us students, we get to count those students as Penna students for the percentage of time they're in that class. And we serve just under 3,000 students in satellite programs in our 16 member schools. We're the 4th largest career center in the state of Ohio. The biggest ones are, it's kind of like an I-75 corridor thing. You have Great Oaks is the largest in Cincinnati. They have 4 campuses. You have Miami Valley CTC, which is on Interstate 70, just west of Dayton. You have Butler Tech, which is just north of Dayton. And then you have Penna Career Center here on I-75. The unique thing about this building is the design. When this was designed and built, we wanted to make sure that we were putting up a facility that gave a different look to career tech education, that it also gave the community a sense of pride that this is a great place to send your kids. It's not some dirty, dingy old factory or our old facility was the Rossford Ordnance Depot that was a military installation from the 40s and 50s that the Army used, and we were given that property by the U.S. government back in 1964 to create this concept of a joint vocational school district. And so the kids have a lot of pride coming here, and we have 31 different programs we offer, and what else could I tell you about this place? Everything that you see in the building has a purpose, right down to the patterns of the carpeting, the color of the rooms. All the wings have a color coding system to them. We'll go outside to the kiosk area, and I can kind of talk about the layout of the building when you get ready to take a little bit of a tour. But we're very proud of this facility. We're very proud of what we do. We've always been viewed as a leader in career tech in the state of Ohio, and I liken it to people from my generation. If you remember the Life cereal commercials with Mikey, and hey, let Mikey try it. If Mikey likes it, then we'll all like it. We have always been viewed as a career center that's out front, taking the lead on issues, and trying out new programs, trying out new practices with our students. We serve special needs students here as well as regular education students. And Penna Career Center, back in 1972, opened up what was called the Skill Center, and it was a project not funded by any local taxpayer dollars, but it was a building created with vocational rehabilitation services dollars to provide an area for students with special needs to get career tech education. We were the very first one in the state to do that, and we operated that facility as basically a separate facility. And when I say separate, I can still remember Fred Souser, who was the superintendent that hired me here as his assistant, when I was at Northwood Local, and Fred and I, we've been to the same meetings and stuff, and Fred sharing with a group of the county superintendents that he said, I took down the Berlin Wall. We're all like, what are you talking about, Fred? The Berlin Wall at Penna? What is that? The Skill Center, where it was located, let's say this was the Skill Center. There was a long hallway with a cafeteria area that was a part of the Skill Center, and then there was a set of double doors that led into the high school. And Fred removed those double doors because before that, If you were in the skill center, you never went into the high school. If you were in the high school, the only time you went in to the skill center was if you had lunch, and that was it. We did not do anything to commingle students with special needs and the high school population. And before we moved into this facility, and how Jeff Kurtz got hired as our director, was for Jeff to become the director of one school. We moved to a one school concept because coming in this facility, we were going to be one school under one roof. We weren't going to be two separate entities. And so we worked for 3 years prior to moving into this facility. We worked for 3 years to bring together the staff and get staff to know one another, and really working at how do we transition so that we can include kids in programs, we can maintain where it makes sense separate level 1 programming for special needs population, or integrating students into our regular career tech programs. And we, back in '72, we were the first ones in the state to have that concept, and schools would visit from all over the country to see what Penna was doing. When Penna opened up back in the mid-'60s, there were schools coming from all over the country to see what is this multi-county JVSD, because we weren't only the first ones in the state of Ohio to do this, but we were the first district in the United States. There was no other creature like us in the United States. So you're getting a chance tonight to be a part of where a lot of people don't get to come to in terms of getting exposed to what we do. And we're very happy to share the message we have with you. Let me quickly go through the contents of the folder that has the outstanding alumni on the left-hand side. I just want to talk about some of the contents. So what you have in there is, on the left-hand side, our outstanding alumni booklet. We've been recognizing outstanding alumni since 1993, I believe. And make sure you do that. Yeah, 1993. These are individuals that have completed programs at Penna and then get nominated. You have to be out at least 10 years. So it's like our Athletic Hall of Fame, only it's our Career Tech Hall of Fame. And these are individuals that have distinguished themselves in what they've done in their life beyond Penna. And we have, since you're BGSU students, have you ever accessed your student medical center there? Anybody? The new facility that opened in August? How on earth can Penna be connected to your medical center? Do you know the name of the doctor that's in charge there? The guy that runs that? I think it's Dr. Nick Espinoza. Dr. Espinoza is an alumnus of Penna Career Center. And he works at Bowling Green State University and is an MD. And he's an alumnus of Penna. We have Jared Eggert, who's a Woodmore High School graduate. Jared is in NASCAR. Jared was the chief mechanic for Tony Stewart. And any of you follow NASCAR at all? Anybody? NASCAR? No one? Maybe a little? Okay, Tony Stewart, the nickname of Smoke, very popular NASCAR driver. He was his chief engine mechanic. Jared completed our auto tech program. Jared now is the chief mechanic for, is he with Gibbs Racing? Joe Gibbs Racing, I think. And is the chief engine mechanic for, I'm drawing a blank, I think it's number 5 is the guy's car, but I'm drawing a blank on the name. But he's the last guy that touches the engine before it goes out on the track. He's a Penna alumnus. Derek Fritsch is a Perrysburg High School graduate and went through our auto tech program. After a couple years of turning wrenches, being a mechanic, decided I don't want to do this. So he got accepted into Ford's engineering program through Ford Motor Company. They paid for his schooling, taught him to be an automotive engineer, a designer, and he designed the exhaust system for the Ford, oh crap, the Ford GT doesn't sound right, but anyway, it was a high-performance, limited production sports car with a top end of 220 miles an hour, low profile. The top of the car probably sat about this high off the ground. And he actually brought it down a couple times. He wasn't allowed to drive it. You had to be a trained driver to actually drive it on the street. And he designed the exhaust system for that. So we've got graduates doing all kind of great things. We have people that are entrepreneurs that have started their own businesses here in this area. We've got people that have moved up the corporate ladder. The president of ProMedica Health Systems is a graduate of Penna. He won't admit that publicly, but he is a graduate of Penna, our small engine program. So we have a rich history in this community, serving 16 school districts across 5 counties that covers 1,000 square miles. So that's a little bit about our past graduates. You have a copy of the Penner Perspectives newsletter that we publish at least 3 times a year. You can read that at your leisure to learn a little bit more about us. Then on the right-hand side, you have some fact sheets about Penna, the districts we serve, a little history of the building, the size of the building. You have a aerial view, a map of the campus. The ring road that you see on this map is 1 mile. Inside that ring road, where our main campus and our operations building sits, that's 50 acres inside that 1 mile ring road. As I said, this was a $90 million project, paid for by a 1 mil continuing permanent improvement levy that the voters approved on 1 attempt. That's unheard of to get a levy passed. As a board member in North Baltimore, what would you say about getting levies passed?
It usually takes a couple of 3.
It's a tough process. As a local superintendent at Northwood, in 7 years, I was on the ballot as the superintendent responsible to get levies passed 11 times in 7 years. So it's a big deal to pass something on 1 attempt. But that gives you kind of a sense of how big this facility is. Another fact sheet about some of the construction. You have a map of our member school districts. This area is 1,000 square miles that we cover. We have students that come from as far south as North Baltimore, that this young lady is a board member at, from as far west as Swanton and Otsego, over in Fulton County and Wood County, as far east as Oak Harbor, or Benton Carroll Salem, and Genoa, and Woodmore and Sandusky County. So we serve all of the districts that are in Wood County, and in Lucas County we serve Anthony Wayne, Maumee, and Springfield. And then in Fulton we have Swanton, and then in Ottawa County, Genoa and Oak Harbor, and in Sandusky County, Woodmore. So 5 counties, hence the name Penta, 4-5. And then you also have a handout that is a copy of what different programs are located in all the different wings around the building. The unique design of this facility, in the center core is where all of our academic classes are held, and you are inside the center core, being here in this conference room. So above us there are 2 stories of academic classrooms. We have science labs, 2, 3, 4, 5. We have 6 science labs, 4 complete with air, natural gas, and water, and 2 that do not have the natural gas connection into their lab. But very unique, high-tech science labs. We offer everything that you would have taken back at your home school except for band and choir. We don't have that. We don't have art. We don't have foreign languages. I would like to figure out some way to do foreign language online, like through Rosetta Stone, to make that happen, to allow our kids to continue that if they would like to. We don't have athletics. We want our kids to be engaged back at their home school and be a part of whatever high school they're from, Maumee, Northwood, Anthony Wayne. We want them to be fully engaged back at their school. North Baltimore, be on the Tigers wrestling or basketball team or track team. So that's very important to us because we want our kids to be a part of 2 communities. And this really is a unique community because you think about it, if you look at that map of 16 school districts, is you're at Kalida High School, do you think that had the same values and beliefs that Lima Senior had, or that New Bremen had, or that Stowe had, or that North Baltimore has, or that, are you lifelong Slovenian?
No.
Okay. Whitmer, okay, Washington local, Whitmer High School. We're bringing together 16 high schools with 16 different sets of values and beliefs, 16 different sets of students, from suburban districts like Maumee, Northwood, Anthony Wayne, to rural districts, more like what in North Baltimore is more of a rural feel to it, Eastwood, Lake, Elmwood, to other suburban, Springfield, but yet Springfield has some ways an urban feel to it. So it's bringing together 16 different populations of students to become kind of the Penna family. I talk about Penna Focus, Penna Family, and Penna Future, that everything we do impacts any one of those 3 points. What are we doing to affect our focus, what we need to do now? What are we doing to affect our family here on campus, our satellites, and all the people that we serve? And Penna Future, what are we doing to affect our future? What are we going to look like in the future? What programs do we need to offer? What do we need to do to help kids academically to be on track to graduate? So that gives you kind of the spin that we talk about with Penna. This is a great place. It is, we think we're the best career center in the state of Ohio, and we work hard every day to make sure that we are in all ways possible. Because when we moved over to this facility, we talked with the staff about, bring with you what makes sense from the old campus, what things you're doing in your classroom, what ideas make sense, what curriculum makes sense, but leave behind what doesn't fit to be in a facility like this. Because we're driving a Cadillac. We don't want to be delivering Yugo materials. You probably don't know what a Yugo is. What's a cheap looking car today? What's a really cheap, crappy car that people would drive?
Mine, I buy.
An Oldsmobile.
Okay, Oldsmobile went out of business.
Business, yeah.
So we're not delivering low-end stuff in our classrooms. We want to make sure that we've got a great facility. We want to deliver that same kind of curriculum and content, experiences in our labs and in our academic classrooms that's befitting of a facility like this. Any questions for me before I turn it over to our adult ed folks, and we'll have Debbie talk about the ABLE stuff first, and Cindy talk about just the overview of adult ed. We've had adult ed here since day one. In 1965, we've had adult ed programming. And at one time, we were one of the biggest providers in this area because Owens wasn't what it is today, and you didn't have all these private for-profit institutions offering coursework. We were the provider in this area for fire and EMT training back in the 60s and 70s, up into the 80s. And then at some point, we decided to get out of that business, and Owens took that over. So we have a rich history of providing great adult ed opportunities. We have a new adult ed supervisor coming on board on March 31st, so we're very excited to bring Rhonda Hogreef onto our staff and to help lead our adult ed and keep moving us in a good direction to really grow our programs, grow our enrollment, and see what else we could get involved with that's going to make a difference for helping people find their niche in life and their skill set so they can be gainfully employed and be a good, productive citizen.
Can I ask a question,
Sure.
Ron? How much crossover is there between what you offer in the daytime and what you offer at night?
We have, in the daytime, we have welding. We offer welding at night. In the day, we have auto tech. We offer auto tech at night. We offer auto body in the day and auto body collision repair at night. We have HVAC, daytime and nighttime. We have a construction remodeling that we offer in the daytime as well. So those are our full-time programs. Did I forget any? Machining,
Okay.
not as big as what we
No.
need it to be,
No.
but that's one that we want to grow because CNC operators are in huge demand, and you can make very, very good money with that. So we're not as big as we would like to be. We're going to get better at that, but we need to get better at the things that we currently offer before we start trying to add on other pieces. Yes?
I just have a question based on students that want to come here. I know back at my high school, we have a very small vocational.
Yeah,
or
you're
not
considered a
vocational, career
comprehensive.
tech.
You're considered a comprehensive high school.
Right.
Like Toledo Public, Sylvania's a comprehensive. Washington Local's a comprehensive.
Right. And so when it came time to decide whether or not you were going to stay or you liked a program on Apollo, it was based on if senior high offered it, you couldn't go to Apollo. But if they did not offer it, you could go to Apollo. Is that the same kind of idea?
Well, the
With
schools that
Penn?
we serve, the only career tech they offer is if we own the program at their place, or
So the satellite?
yeah, the satellites, or if they've offered something like Elmwood has a Project Lead the Way pre-engineering program for grades 7 through 12. They started that. We don't own it. Eastwood still runs their own ag, Bowling Green their own ag, and Elmwood their own ag. the rest of the schools that have ag programs, we've taken those over for them. Because it was a point, the satellites all came into being because the member schools came to Penn and said, hey, we can't afford to keep this, we're thinking about dropping it, could you guys maybe take it over? And crunch the numbers, here's what we got to have for student enrollment, and so we've taken over those programs. Because if it came down to brass tacks, the schools would drop it in a heartbeat because it helps them save money. And we want to make sure kids have those career tech opportunities to be able to go there. What other questions? But you have career tech opportunities in Saudi Arabia for students?
What?
Do you have career tech opportunities in Saudi Arabia for students?
No,
Okay.
it's very different than here.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've got, we have dual enrollment agreement with Owens Community College, so a minimum of, I think the lowest we have is 6 hours in one of our programs, up to 18 credits in our auto tech area, that are dual enrollment, transcripted, graded courses, that they walk out of here, if they decide to go to some other school, they get a transcript from Owens, and those are recognized at any state institution that's a state university or state community college across the state of Ohio. And so it's a great opportunity for that dual enrollment for our students. Exercise science, high-end programs, it's like a physical therapy type program, athletic trainer, welding, cosmetology. If you would choose to go to a private cosmetology school, that cost is anywhere between $10,000 and $20,000. Here, it costs you just the cost of your uniforms, and that's it. We pay all the other costs. And yet there are still, I just had this conversation with a staff member today whose hairdresser is a Northwood graduate. She was a cheerleader, very popular young lady at the school, wanted to be a cosmetologist. Mom and Dad, no way are you going to Penna. Even though you can get your cosmetology license for free, basically, there's no way you're going to Penna. And so she graduated from Northwood, went to a private salon school, got her degree as a cosmetologist, and paid, I think what'd she tell Monica, paid like about $17,000 for that, and it literally would have cost her just her uniform cost, and the cost to pay her state cos license test, which I think is like $150, something like that. And our passage rate, we're about 95% of our students in our cosmetology program or our hair design only pass the state licensing test as a senior in high school. It's a pretty darn good rate. Our kids leave with other certifications, NATEF or ASE certifications for auto tech. We have a computer hardware networking program. The kids are Cisco certified. They are A+ certified when they leave here. So if they want to go in the job market, they're ready with certifications, or they can go on for more training at a 2 or 4 year institution. Yes, ma'am.
Do the adult trades people then leave here to go into the trades program, apprenticeship programs, or are they in them when they're here?
We do our best to try to link them up if that's what they'd like to do, to get into an apprenticeship. But we also try to encourage them if they want to go on for more education to get linked up at Owens. But most folks that come here, they're trying to get retrained on something, retooled on something, so they can go out and either move up within the organization they're at or get a different job.
Okay.
And Ohio, in last year's budget, language for adult ed that was passed was called the 1-year option, where getting the Board of Regents to recognize the hours that our adult students spend in class, to give them credit for that would transfer to a 2-year university. So let's say a 600-hour program might be worth 15 or 20 semester hours of college credit. Now, the colleges get heartburn over that because they make money off of the classes you take. Well, if you come in and don't have to take 20 hours off the top, the academic side or gen ed side of the college is going to say, well, hey, that all needs to come off of your stuff that you're teaching in the workforce development side. The workforce development side saying, hey, wait a minute, they shouldn't have to take, this math or this English or that stuff over on the other side of the house. So, Deb.
Okay.
I get long-winded.
That's
I'm
a lot
sorry.
to follow. Okay, Ron, as Ron mentioned, I'm oversee the ABLE program, which is Adult Basic Literacy Education. It's actually a grant-funded program that Penn has had for quite a few years. We prepare students that have not gotten a high school diploma to get their GED. In Ohio, there's a million, I don't know how old, at a certain age or over, there's 1 million adults without a high school diploma. In Lucas County, there's 60,000 adults 25 and older without a high school diploma. That doesn't count the 12 to 24-year-olds that the ship sailed. We service 8 counties. We go all the way to the jail over in Stryker, where actually it's a prison. We do that prison. We do 2 jails, a couple treatment facilities. We have about 30 staff members, and we educate about 1,800 students a year. And they come in from a 1st grade level to a 12th grade level. And we prepare them, typically an instructor in that program typically teaches 7-hour blocks, 3.5 hours a day. The students come 2 days a week. We also have a large ESL program. We service about 300 students from different countries. I think right now we have about 8 or 9 different countries represented in that class. They come to learn, and they learn to speak and read English. They do a separate graduation with those students. So it's just another avenue when you graduate from college. It's a wonderful profession. It really is pretty rewarding. We have a lot of students, a lot of barriers, obviously, or they would have got their high school diploma. And they come from all different walks of life. The test just changed this year. It was the same test since 2002, and they just changed it this year, 2014, and it's much more rigorous, more expensive. It's online only. It's computer-based only. So for our older folks, we have a little problem with that aren't familiar with the computer to be able to maneuver through the steps. So we're working on some things. Hopefully we get a paper pencil version back for those folks, because we do have quite a few folks. The biggest age, our greatest age is 22 to 44 that come to our program. Although we do serve some underage students, but they have to go through a lot of hoops before they come to us. They have to get superintendents, and typically, I think we have about 118 in our programs between us and Owens right now that are 16, 17-year-olds, but only 18 have gone on to get a GED. What else can I tell you about it? It is
Partnerships with Toledo Public.
Yeah, we partner with TPS. We actually have classes, GED classes in grade schools. When mom and dad are in school, when the kids are in school, they can come to class. We are at Leverett, we are at Jones, we are at Scott High School, we are at Reynolds Elementary and Robinson Elementary. So those are called schools as community hubs. It's a partnership with United Way and Romulus Durant, which we've got a pretty good relationship with TPS now with our schools as community hubs. And we also service the libraries. We have a lot of sites just all over. We have 30 sites in Lucas County, 30 sites that we provide services. We also do services on a bus. The Toledo Lucas County library system got a grant 2 years ago for a bus, and they retrofitted a bus with 15 computer stations and an instructor station. And we pull that bus into housing authorities, and the residents can come out and do GED. We provide the instructor on that bus, and that's it's been a bit of a challenge because again it's computer based only when they get on that bus. But they can make popcorn on the bus, and we do some things to try to entice them to come to class. We're on the bus line. We try to be on the bus line to make it easy because our students do have a lot of barriers to get to class. And we do classes at Davis College. We do classes at Herzing College. And we have a partnership with University of Toledo that when our students get their GED, they can go to UT for 2 semesters for free, right across the hall in our schools as community hubs. So that's been a real nice partnership for our students that wanted to do that. And it's regular college courses. It's not like just feel-good courses. It's ones that will pertain to whatever degree that anybody would have to take. So that's a really great partnership. It's a really large program. We service, like I said, about 1,800 students a year. In 4 counties a partner. Sylvania City Schools is one of our partners, and Wood County Justice Center. And we also do classes at Hancock County Jail and Wood County Jail, and we just started Wood County Jail a couple weeks ago. We have classes 7 days a week. even on Sundays. We do classes Saturday and Sundays at Herzing College, and we do classes morning, afternoon, and evening, 7 days a week. About 250 hours a week we are somewhere preparing students to get their GED.
And Deb's always looking for instructors, and what's the requirement to be an instructor?
Just a college degree in whatever. It doesn't have to be in education.
A bachelor's? Okay.
And I would say, if you get a chance, and Deb will tell you what the graduation date is for the GED, and Cindy will tell you for the adult ed programs. If you get a chance and you're in this area when they give you those dates, come to a GED graduation here, or if you see advertised in your hometown paper or something, hey, Lima Senior is having a GED graduation on, June the 5th in your home, go to a GED graduation. These are folks that from 16, 18 years of age up to 60 plus years of age, working to get their high school equivalency diploma, the GED, and all of them have a different story to tell. You'll have, we had a grandfather that dropped out of high school, went in the Navy, got out of the Navy after being in the Navy for a short stint and went to work for the railroad. And his aha moment came when grandkids are at the kitchen table at Grandma and Grandpa's. Grandpa, help me with my homework. He couldn't read, couldn't do any of that. I got to get a diploma. So he came back to get a GED. Or this fall when we had a graduation ceremony, 2 young ladies graduated. One graduated because the other came to a GED site to pay for, Debbie brought me there to get me signed up to pay for it. And while Debbie is there talking with the teacher found out Debbie didn't get her high school diploma and talked Debbie into staying. And so Debbie not only brought somebody, I'm using Debbie as an example, but this young lady brought somebody in, had that compassion and empathy, and wanted to make sure that person got their GED without that person knowing that she didn't have it, and then realizing, hey, while I'm here, and somebody talking to her, that she stayed. So if you can go to a GED graduation, it is unbelievable, just the enthusiasm and the whooping and hollering that goes on. These people are genuinely excited and proud of what they've accomplished. And then go to a high school, an adult ed graduation for these individuals that have gone through a 600 or a 900 hour training program in a specific skill. And it's not, clean-cut high school, Kalida high school graduation. You're going to see some rough and tumble figures in there, both men and women, but they come here at night, 4:30 to 10 o'clock at night. Some of them ride the bus from downtown Toledo out to in front of the McDonald's, get off the bus by the McDonald's, walk across the parking lot down to the far end of the building to go to their welding lab or whatever, and at 9:30, 10 o'clock at night, traipse back over there. Could be snowing out. They're standing out there waiting for a bus to take them back downtown Toledo to get on another bus to take them home. So either one of those or both, get to a GED or an adult ed graduation.
Yeah, recently our GED graduation, we had 80 graduates that wanted to participate. We had about 200 that got their GED from July 1, trying to get that old test in, and 80 came for graduation, and they brought probably 400 family members. When they called to RSVP, we asked how many. It's like we're bringing 25 people, and they do. They bring whole rows of people. But they wear caps and gowns, and we recognize them each one at a time, so they have their moment of fame. So it's amazing.
So when people sign up for GED classes, are they kind of do you pre-test them as far as what they're capable of currently, and that will determine the path that they follow? When they
call us first, and we put them closest to their home, because we have lots of sites. We try to get them closest to their home. And then when they come to a mandatory orientation. And the orientation, we just tell them about the program and what the expectations are. And we do what they call a TABE test, and that's an assessment for adults. And the TABE test, we test in math, reading, and English. And that test tells us exactly what grade level they're on, like first grade, ninth month,
sure.
third grade. We start at their lowest level first, and then we work through our worksheets to get them where they need to be to test. We give them the practice test here for free. The practice test is actually $24 now to take it, but Penta lets them take that as part of the program. And the program doesn't cost money. The money he's referring to is that the test costs money. It used to be $40, and in January of this year it went up to $120.
Wow.
The students still pay $40, but they passed House Bill
53 or 59.
and they put $1 million in a line to pay the $80 difference for the students for the next year. So our students do get a voucher. They have to, again, there's some things they have to do before they get the voucher. And when we think they're ready to test, we send them as soon as we can. So, but that's how we test them in the classroom, is with the TABE assessment.
What's an average as far as how long it takes these students?
You know,
Or
it's
is it
funny because when
all
they
in
call,
that?
it's funny, it just depends upon how dedicated, you know.
Yeah.
So like, we do orientation the first week of every month. We do new intake at all 30 sites. We might have 35 people signed up for a site, half will show up, and then half of those come back the second day when they realize that you just don't get it, you know.
Yeah.
So, and then they'll call again, you know. Our biggest influx is usually September, when their kids go back to school, in January for New Year's resolution is when we have the most students come in, you know. We have changed our rules a little bit in the class. We used to kind of let them come and go because we know life happens. But then in the last couple of years, we've decided that we have mandatory attendance. I mean, unless you come in a wheelchair because you're in an accident. But if you don't show up without calling, when you come back to class, we say you have to come back next month and redo orientation. Because otherwise, we don't feel like we're preparing them for the next step that's, you know, serious, like a job that they expect you to be there on time.
Sure.
They'll come in late, you know, because a million excuses, but we really have tightened up on that. But we think that's for the good of the order, you know.
Sure.
So it is really, if that's something you'd want to look at down the road, he's right,
Yeah.
we're always hiring staff. We don't have a big turnover. Our ladies and gentlemen have been with us for a long time, except for we like to always expand our classes, and we have a lot of retired teachers that work for us that just want to work their 7 or 14 hours a week. They don't want to work more than 2 classes. A lot of, you know, paperwork enabled. There's a lot of extra things to be done, but we compensate for that also. So, any questions about April?
I had to let them stand up and shake or something. They've been listening for so long, so patiently. Well, let me see if I can fill in here about the adults. Will most of you people probably be teaching at the high school level, would you assume, or do you think you would go into the adult section? High school, probably?
High school,
I don't know about the graduates.
Yeah, so I don't know that this population I'm going to talk about, if you'll confront them or not. When Ron said something about the people getting on the bus at 2:30 in downtown Toledo for a 4:30 class and walking across our campus and staying till 10 and going out that is the population that comes particularly from the inner city, the adult education students that we have. And it is a challenged group with lots of barriers. Now, we have a variety. In other words, we might have somebody coming from Perrysburg that's really quite well off, and he pays for his course. We might have somebody coming from Swanton, Monroe. We've had people even from Findlay. That's not typical. 98% of our people are from Ohio, and most of them live close by, and both of them probably are coming from the center of Toledo. And so because of that, maybe they've been through the GED classes, and they're coming back for training. Some of them have lost their jobs, businesses going out of business, bad economy, leaving the country, all kinds of things, and they're retraining. So they come for a variety of reasons. But I find them very interesting because they all come with their own set of packaged situations. And I'm going to tell you just very briefly, this was from 2012. The population is 18-ish up to probably 60. I might have had somebody at 62, but there's definitely those in their 50s, their 40s, their 30s. The bulk of them are probably, say, 21 to 30, 31. And right now, because our programs lead so heavily to the trades, we're trying to get more into the health. We do have a good pharmacy technician program. We're working on STNA. We did have phlebotomy. We're not having that quite at this time. We might go into that in the future. But with the trades programs, it's heavily men. I get a woman that wants to be a welder and one who wants to flip houses, and she's in construction. But for the most part, honest to goodness, it's about probably 98%. When you go out on the program and the tours, you'll see it is a male population. So the other thing I wanted to mention, funding is such a big issue for this particular group. Again, there are those people who come from a substantial background and they have some parents or family, maybe they've saved a little bit, they have a wife that's working, they're going to pay for theirs. But most of our people are here on grant. And in 2012, when I did this last, I considered 96% of them disadvantaged, meaning they had some source of income that was grant funded. It might have been Trade Adjustment Act money. They had lost their job because the company closed its doors to them. They might have had Workforce Investment Act money, which is almost impossible right now for us to get from Job and Family Services. It's been cut so much. But the bulk of them are probably, you've had them too, Pell Grants. So the big majority of the students that come here have funding through the Pell Grant. And as you know, there are strings attached to the Pell. They do have to have satisfactory academic progress, and so their attendance has to be very good, and their academics have to be good too. I think that's kind of the basic funding that we have for our students. And of course, the completion rate, I'm pretty proud of it. We've got about, it varies between 83 and about 86. So I'm saying an average of the other last year, 85% completion rate. We do try to get them all an industry credential, and our pass rate, I have this one written down, this was for 12-13, was 81%, and that's in their industry credential, whether it's the ASE in automotive or the, let's see, the core and EPA testing that they do for heating and air and things like that. Yeah, I don't think I need to go over any more of that. I wanted to talk just a little bit about the adult learner, which you are, but you're in a different category. Our students, like I said, they come with a lot of barriers, and they're hopeful to make a change, but their lifestyle is probably their number one enemy that they have to work with as far as their decision making, their finances, some of their personal lifestyle habits. They need to make some adjustments there if they're going to have success when they go out in the workplace. A lot of them need those employability skills. They're not used to coming on time. They come irregularly. When they're here, they might not give it their all. So those are the kind of skills. There's also the soft skills that we're thinking about, the way they present themselves as far as appearance, cleanliness, handshake, eye contact, ability to communicate, all those things. And we do give them some of it, but most of it comes, I would say, from their instructor having an environment more like the workplace. In other words, I think the instructors that treat it more like a workplace situation where these are the expectations. And like I said, with that completion rate, I think we're doing very well. And a lot of them do make some good changes. And as far as job placement, I did have this by program, so I'm going to tell you. This was the 13-14, let's see, it would have to be from the 12 and 13 year. Auto body, placement job, 50%. That's okay. Auto technology, 100% of the fellows that went through that, there were no girls, got a job in the field. Building or contractor, 76% got jobs in the field. Heating and air, 87 jobs in the field. Welding, 90. They're obviously looking for welders right now. So we do not have job placement, but we do have job assistance, and they will get an opportunity to go into the computer lab and work on resume building, and they will, we're going to see that every single one of them has a job resume out on Ohio Means Jobs this year. They're polishing them up right now.
What's the cost, Cindy, of a full-time program here?
Oh, good point. And I don't think, in your catalog, by the way, I will say all these things are in there. In your catalog, you will see. The top one is 57, I think 56, 57. That's the builder contractor. They vary by hours. And you might not be familiar with this because you haven't gone to a career in tech school probably. We are not credit hours. We are clock hours. And that's the problem with going from Kanta to Owens, and they're talking about this special accommodation that would allow you to take your credit there. So the highest, I'm just going to grab one of those. Let me give myself a catalog. Well, builder contractor remodeler, builder contractor remodeler in here is 5657, and that includes tuition and fees. So there's no extra charges to the student except to pay for their pre-assessment test. Any student that comes here takes a pre-assessment test called Work Keys. We've really found it's helpful to have a minimum score, and different programs have different requirements as far as their scores go. They take a basic math, they take a reading, and they take a locating information. So they do pay $30 for that, but the rest of everything is included. They have a toolkit, supplies. If you're a welder, you're going to get your helmet, you're going to get your mitt, you're going to get your jacket. So everything is pretty much included in that price. It goes all the way down to $38.84, I think it is, for auto body. So that one is much less hours. That's 600 hours. Construction is 882. It's obviously built in by hours, how much your class. The classes are all evening. When the high school labs and classrooms are available to us, it's after 3:30. So the first class starts at 4 o'clock. The builder starts at 4 o'clock. Some start at 5. We've got one that starts at 5:30. They're all out of the building by 10 o'clock at night. And for these adult learners, one of the other things that they carry on their back is they are just so busy with things that a high school student hopefully doesn't have to think of. Many of them have families, they have dependents, even if they're not a married family. They may be working, they have their classroom to juggle. They have many transportation problems. I mean, a car is an expensive thing, and so they're struggling. I would say their top problem is probably financial. It's actually their top problem. Secondly, I think decision-making, making wise decisions. You know, they've been in the habit of maybe not always making the best decisions. Social situations, as far as the soft skills and employability skills, those are the things that they're dealing with. So, yeah, let's see, I don't know.
The Work Keys test that she talked about, before we decide that we're going to take you into a welding program, we're going to give you the Work Keys test for welding. It's a test, do you have the academic abilities to be successful in the math, locating information, and reading of what would be done in a typical welding environment. If you don't have the academic horsepower to be successful there, we don't want to put you in that program and have you fail. So we want to make sure that the program you're interested in, that you've got the requisite academic horsepower to be successful in that. Because we don't want to have you spend $6,000 for a program that you fail because you just didn't have the ability to do it.
I don't know the answer to this. Just like ITT Tech do the same thing. They're very expensive.
Oh, very expensive. I mean, like $20,000
Yeah,
expensive.
and I'm just wondering if they take a hit a lot on completion and, you know, Pell Grants, and yet they don't produce anything. So I'm just wondering if they're using some kind of assessment. Yeah, ahead of time.
Speak to that.
Yeah.
I don't know.
And the Work Keys certificate, I mean, the Work Keys test actually is a certificate then. If they can score a 3, 4, 5
A career
bronze.
readiness
It starts at
certificate,
bronze, silver, gold, and platinum. And it's actually an industry recognized certificate. So when they take that, it's actually another certificate that they earn.
They actually took people from the fields and industry, and when they created the test, it's supposed to be geared towards people looking to get out in the workforce. I didn't even mention, there's a lot of VA assistance too. So we do get veterans that have funding too. I had some of these things in there, and I know you all have had probably fill out the FAFSA. When our students come in, we do take time. I see every single one of the full-time people in a initial interview, and I think I had one of these, and it's called a placement, a planning for a success individual career plan. And the first thing they do is give us lots of information, and sometimes they look at it and they go, oh, geez, a lot of information. But we have to actually provide an awful lot of data now. There's a lot of overview from the federal government, and they're looking for all kinds of information about our adult learners and how successful they are, and if they are getting employment, do we have completions, that sort of thing. One of these pages is actually a little career plan. They tell us about where they've been, where they plan to go with their goals, what their favorite things are to do. If they have barriers, what are the solutions that might be there? Is it family, organizations? We ask them what their targeted employment position is, that sort of thing. We always have to have information about our refund policy. So there's a certain amount of information that the federal government expects us to do. Of course, they have a release of information form. And then we have another form that I think is interesting. And this is, we ask them to give any information that they feel we should have regarding their transportation, their health situation. We're just looking a little bit to see if we can head off some problems by discussing them before they even are enrolled. So this is the initial enrollment appointment when they're coming in, and they're getting their work keys, and now they're starting to fill out the paperwork. And then there's another paper that tells them all the documentation that they're going to have to bring in and how soon they have to have it in. So that's just a little thing I just wanted to go over. One of the other things that we do is we do assess our students. We have something, we originally called it the Third Thursday program, and I see that's still on this one. We're upgrading to progress review. We thought it sounded more professional. But about every 6 to 8 weeks, the instructor will sit down with each student, and he will go over all these different things, asking how they are doing, do they have strengths, do they have weaknesses, what needs to be improved. The student can make a comment, the instructor makes a comment, they both sign, and then the instructors, a night or two later, meet with their supervisor, and they're going to have an assessment with the supervisor, too. They're going to talk about how the program's going. Are there strengths? Are there weaknesses? Are things we need to tighten up on? Any particular problems going on? And so that was with the supervisor. Another thing that we do have is a student intervention form, because we do have issues sometimes that have to be looked after. The number one problem, of course, is attendance, getting everybody in there often enough so that they can keep their satisfactory progress, keep their Pell Grant money, and get all their skills that they're trying to get ready for the workforce. But it could be a great situation. It could be some other kind of a conduct. We don't have that too often. So that was just another little piece in there. I did mention that they are in the computer lab twice, once in the fall and once in the spring semester. We do give them some job search sites to go to. We are going to have the resume out on Ohio Means Jobs. And this little teeny thing, I don't think I popped this in there, but they have really liked these. I think Debbie first found this somewhere when we were out. It's a little booklet that you can fill all your job application information. You don't have to remember the name of that supervisor or when you were there or what your job duties were. All of it can go in this one little booklet, and we were really pleased to find that, so that was something really good. I don't think there's anything else really that I need to go over. We have a wonderful support system here from the superintendent right on down to the classes are small, the instructors are supportive. I think they're good at motivating their students. They try to use a variety of teaching methods. Of course, the biggest thing when we interview the student about what they liked at the end of the year, where they all go, hands-on training, because most of our people, their learning style is very definitely hands-on. They're active learners, so that is a really important thing. Is there anything else I wanted to say to you? Well, I think probably something that brings satisfaction to the instructors and me, because we have an open door policy in the student services, and I am student services and financial aid. If there's a problem, come on in, and they do. But I think the growth as far as self-esteem, because if they do come and they do get these skills and they do have hope for a job, you do see them blossom of that, and the self-esteem kind of bloom. So for the instructors and for me, and at graduation, when they all come in and they're very pleased with themselves and their families are there, it's rewarding for us, and of course we're hopeful for them. So if you have any questions, I'd be glad to answer. Yes.
I've got a question and a comment. It can go to whoever
Anybody,
the most
okay.
appropriate. Number one, I noticed, I was looking through, I didn't see an adult culinary arts program.
There is none.
Do you just let Owens have that?
Well, they now that they've got their new facility open, but it's something that we've talked about. The unique challenge of running a high school and adult ed program is people. The high school people, it's my lab. The nighttime people, it's my lab. You leave the lab, everything was spick and span. I come in at night and use it. You come back the next morning, something's out of place. You know, the sky's falling and everything is going to happen wrong because you didn't put a chair back. I mean, it's getting the adults to get along on sharing the lab space. And so that's a challenge of that. And we've not gone down the culinary path. We've done some training with ServeSafe, but it's something we need to look at if we're going to grow what we offer. But we don't want to get into a full-time type of a thing to compete with what Owens does. But if there's some specialty training we could do, that would make sense.
Like a niche market.
Yep.
Yeah.
Like short order cook is
Yeah.
one we get calls for. That would be something maybe down the road.
Mhm.
But you know, there is
You know,
some
even
challenges.
vegetarian, I mean, there's all kinds of things that might be of interest to people that.
My comment, though, was that could you explain to these guys the structure? Because I was here in the fall doing my methods block, and I met everybody in the, Chuck and everybody else in our area, and I made a remark, and I don't even remember who I made it to. I think it was Jeff Kurtz, that you're not structured like a typical school. You're structured more like a business.
As far as the
how
administrative team or the schedule or what?
Administrative, I've noticed that it almost seems like every area is its own like little quote-unquote profit center. So if you look at it as a like multinational corporation, you have the U.S. branch,
Yeah.
you have the multinational branches, but within the U.S. branch there are departments and divisions, and compared to a traditional school, you're quite different.
Yeah, probably the way to equate it to what you'd be used to at a typical school, you would have your math department, your English department, social studies, and science. We have that same thing on the academic side, but on the career tech side, we're basically a school within a school. So Chuck, that you referred to, Chuck Jaco, heads up all of our business and health programs. Jim Henline heads up all of our ag and transportation programs. Kevin McCann heads up our manufacturing and construction programs. So that supervisor is responsible for all those programs that are offered under that career tech cluster, if you will. And so we have a director that reports to me. The director is responsible for the supervisors. The supervisors are responsible for what goes on in the cluster. We have our own separate office of student affairs that handles all attendance and discipline, so that that's not dealt with on a day-to-day basis by the supervisor of that cluster. We have student services that handles all guidance and special ed. So again, taking it off people's plates so that we've got, if I'm Jim Henline, I'm just focused on how do I help my ag teachers and my transportation teachers get better at what they do, make sure they have the resources they need, the curriculum they need, and to be successful. Is that?
Yeah, that's pretty much it. And
And it's enrollment driven. An old adage in career tech, you're either selling your program or selling your house. If you got enrollment in your program, you're good. If you don't, you better figure out a way to get students enrolled in your program. And when we hire people, I talk about we're looking for Pied Pipers, people that can attract students that are energetic, that know their content area. As a med tech teacher, a cosmetologist, a welding teacher, whatever career tech lab that is, we want people that know their content, can deliver the pedagogy, but also can recruit students. So you're kind of a quasi-coach as well. You gotta be that recruiter, talking up your program, getting people to want to come and sign up for your program. Because you're not just competing against just yourself. You've got 30 other programs that are recruiting kids as well. And we have about 2,400 students per grade level across all 16 districts. And so we're trying to get students to choose to come here. And we're not the right place for every student. We don't want every student. But there's a lot more kids that should take advantage of what we have to offer. Because a high school diploma really gets you nowhere today. You've got to have skills, and then whatever training you need beyond high school. And if that's getting a certificate that gets you down the path you want to go, if that's an associate's degree that you need to get down that path, if it's a 4-year degree, if it's beyond a 4-year degree. But, you know, the debt that college students experience, if you land in a job that isn't paying enough to be able to pay that loan back, that's a problem. Or if you have no skills, you know, I got a diploma from XYZ University, but I don't want to single out any degree that may or may not be a valuable degree, but there are a lot of degrees that I got a degree, but boy, I can't get a job because there's only 5 of those jobs in the United States, and the turnover is 1 person every 10 years. I mean, there's some degrees like that.
That would be my younger daughter.
So, you know,
Degree in English.
Yeah. And again, at one time that would have been a good thing, but how do you use that if you can't get a job? If you're not going to be a teacher, what are you going to use that English degree for? You're going to go into writing for a newspaper or a magazine, or you're going to be an author? How are you going to pay the bills and keep moving forward? Yes.
And this can go to whoever. What are the main differences you think in your adult education program versus like Owen's adult education? What are the differences?
Oh, well, I think it's day and night, really. Like I said, credit hours versus the clock hours. Ours are short-term training. In other words, the longest you're going to be here is 38 weeks. And in that time, you're going to be in class 4 days a week in the same classroom and lab. You're going to have the same instructor. Some of the programs have 2 or 3 instructors, but so it's a very different setup. You are not taking any core classes. In other words, there's no English. There's no. They get math, but they get, say, welding math. They get schematics and heating and air. It's whatever bears right there on the course, and so I think that's a big difference.
Okay.
I think there's probably a lot of others. They're not getting an associate's degree, obviously, or something like that. They're getting a certification and, of course, a PENA certificate when they finish. But they do get some really good skills. And I want to tell you, we do get a lot of people that have tried Owens, and they had good hopes and dreams for it, but it just didn't fit them, either their learning style or the time it took or the cost.
Do you remember Cindy gave a completion rate earlier? What was that number? Did anybody write that down?
For which
For
program?
which one?
Just kind of the
I know
overall.
the welding was like 90%, and your auto tech was
Kind of
100%.
85% for all.
Yeah.
So they're all really
And
high.
85% completion rate to go through a program here versus a community college across the board in Ohio, 10 to 12% graduation rate.
After 3 years. Yeah, and a lot of money and a lot of taxpayer Pell Grants going into it.
And I'm not saying that as a knock, but
Right.
that's the reality. That it's people get started, it
takes too long.
a lot of people want to I just want to get the workforce development side. I want to get that training. I don't want the other side of the house. But when you sign up, you're getting everything. And whereas we just, ours is on the skilled training here.
And they can do the stair-step approach where they're going to get that skilled training, go out and work in a particular field, and then maybe they'll go back later for whatever degree to get advanced training in business or operating their own, company or something.
And a lot of them end up at, I'm sure you know, using all their funds with Dev Ed
Yes.
classes.
Mm-hmm.
They can take a Dev Ed class up to like 5 times the same class before they're not taking more. Well, then their financial aid's gone.
And now you're
You know.
limited. You've got, 6 years, 12 semesters, at least on the Pell Grant that you can use, and then it's over.
Right.
It's over. So if they've used 3,